again all for praying together. It has been a lot. It's like this earthquake and Ukraine's first anniversary is coming for war and derailing of chemicals. So a lot is happening. And so, in a sense, how to balance in such difficult times. We are given many tragedies and many sufferings, and at the same time, how to keep our, our sanity and so our health is very important. Writing the time. I don't want it too long. So, whoever joins the first time, I have been speaking since October of last year, the life of the founding master, whom you see, his picture there, the founder of Won Buddhism. His life we have been studying, and the reason why his life is so important is the teaching he has given is somewhat he walked through, and through his life we can really conform the teaching as a living example. So in that context, I think Sotaesan's life is very important, and how we need to study in depth, and for that purpose I have been kind of focusing on Sotaesan's life. So we've studied two pictures. First is questioning. At the age of 7 he started to question, and then last one was at the age of 11 he started to pray to the mountain god. And this month we are going to study, he's looking for a spiritual guide, the teacher. That's the third picture. So seeking for a spiritual guide is in Korean, the tradition, someone who has extraordinary spiritual powers. That person may resolve all the problems. So Sotaesan kind of followed the customary Korean the culture that someone who has very extraordinary kind of skills or capacity may resolve his questions. So he felt that all his questions can be resolved by a mountain god, mountain spirit, but it didn't happen. So now he's looking for spiritual guide. But spiritual guide also, it ended in failure. So someone who has a special talents or special power, couldn't really function in front of Sotaesan. So it didn't work. So he couldn't really. So here, for 6 years, he sought a spiritual guide, but he couldn't meet with such a person. And so the next picture is somewhat, he was totally lost. What shall I do? And so with that total loss, and he attained awakening at the age of 26. But we'll do next, the samadhi and then awakening separately, but in line of. So after his awakening, he claimed Buddha to be his teacher. So here, he didn't really meet the spiritual guide, but after he was awakened, Sotaesan claimed the Gautama Buddha is my teacher. And actually, scholarly debate is what he meant. Buddha is actually Gautama Buddha or Zen master, whom East Asian culture is familiar with. I mean, that's more the scholarly the context. But the Sotaesan kind of referred Gautama Buddha as his teacher. And then he had a reason why Buddha is my teacher. And I want you, to study in depth. But let me just read the scripture of Won Buddhism, chapter 1, prefatory, the verse 2. My initial aspiration up to my final enlightenment, many aspects of my experience coincide with the practice and sayings of the Buddha in the past. Thus, I adopt Sakamuni Buddha as my original guide. So that's the kind of starting point. And then further, the Buddha's teaching illuminates the principle of the true nature, solves the crucial matter of birth and death, elucidates the principle of cause and effect, and commands the path of practice. So Buddha's teaching is comprehensive for our practice. So I am taking Buddha's teaching as my kind of foundation. So that's Sotaesan's reason. Buddha as teacher and then Buddha's teaching as the foundation of Won Buddhism. So while I was, thinking about this context, let's think about husband and wife married and gave birth to a child. Then they became parents to the child, right? Parents to the child. And when I read an article that probably you may know better, but I was quite fascinated. Google and Alphabet. Google is kind of, the child, but Alphabet is parents. So Google adopted Alphabet as parents. Oh my, Google started earlier and then later they adopt Alphabet as parents. It was quite interesting. And then similarly, that when we see teacher and students, teacher met disciple, and student met disciple. So teacher of the disciple and student of the teacher. So here, that kind of interaction. But you see, Sotaesan never met the Buddha, but he adopted the Gautama Buddha as the teacher. You see, it's quite interesting. I was I had a quite interesting kind of perspective while I was reading this more contemporary context. So I start with the Sotaesan's perspective on the teacher. So who is teacher? Who is teacher? That's Sotaesan and Gautama Buddha I talk about, but in general, the Sotaesan talks about the teacher in various perspectives, various areas. So in the Four Essentials, the second one is the primacy of the wise. There, he talks about, he defined the teacher. Okay, teacher whose way of commanding the nature, whose moral conduct in human affairs is superior, and teacher whose governance of human affairs is superior, that's teacher, and teacher, anyone whose knowledge of life is superior, that's teacher, and the teacher, anyone whose scholarship and technical skills are superior, that's teacher, and teacher, anyone whose common sense of all kinds is superior, is teacher. So you see, the teacher is not just a single teacher. This teacher is comprehensive, very comprehensive. And then here, his understanding of the teacher is the unknowledgeable learn from the knowledgeable. So whoever or any subject you are unknowledgeable, then you are learning from the knowledgeable. So that's the teacher, and very comprehensive picture you can see. And then he said, teachers are not forever teachers. So teachers can be disciple, disciple can be teacher. In this area, you are my teacher. In that area, I'm your teacher. So it's quite flexible enough. And so here he said, the teacher, when we claim teacher, when we are seeking something. So when we are seeking this skill, you may be my teacher. When we are seeking this knowledge, you will be my teacher. So when you are seeking, the teacher can be very many. And then the next point is, when students were disappointed by the teacher, we may even totally give up what we learned from the teacher. But Sotaesan says, well, you don't abandon what you learned from the teacher because you are disappointed. So, in a sense, the essential discourse of the commanding the nature there, he said, believe not just in the personal alone, but in the Dharma. So here it's more Dharma, more spiritual teaching, but I think we can expand, skills or knowledge or, anything. So you don't just believe in the person, but the teaching or the area that you learn. So here, more, the broader perspective we see. So I think, in a sense, these are more for, as a student, what kind of attitude you should have. When you are seeking, you have teacher, and then don't be disappointed because of the teacher's kind of moral conduct or it's not met, And at the same time, Sotaesan talks about, suppose you want to be a teacher, what kind of qualification you need? You need some qualification in order to be the teacher. So that piece is his first Dharma, or the essential Dharmas for preparation as leaders, but we can say leaders as teacher. So here, if you want to be respected and your teaching be really given and influencing your students, then leaders or teachers should not lose the confidence of the disciple, the led. And also, teacher or leader should not exploit the led or the disciple. And teacher or leader should assess their knowledge and conduct in all situations. So that's more teacher's preparation piece. So as a teacher, you should prepare this in order to really be a teacher. And in order to be a student, you should whenever you are seeking something, you have open mind and then you do teach. So that's quite a broader perspective of Sotaesan's teacher's part. And the discourse part, there is a chapter 10, belief and dedication. That's specifically on the interaction between teacher and disciple. And I want you to read, we cannot study all here, but there, the first chapter. And while I was preparing my Dharma talk, I can see this chapter has two different standing points. From the standing point of disciple and from the standing point of teacher. That's, and in Korean and Confucian, the culture, all the time, the importance is younger, respect to senior, so definitely more focus is on the students or disciples' perspective, but the teacher's standing point is also here. So it's total 19 chapters, probably 2/3 is about how disciple should do to the teacher and how disciple should have a belief in the teacher. So here the verse 1, it says, if practitioners has genuine belief, then the teacher's Dharma will be transmitted and the disciple will achieve merit. But if he or she does not have belief, the Dharma won't be transmitted and no merit will be achieved. And then the question is, what is believing mind? So it says number 1, number 2, number 3, and then number 4. So believing mind or belief. Belief means never hiding or disguising one's own faults in front of the teacher, but truthfully confessing them. So that's somewhat, the emphasizing from the disciples and the perspective. And then the teacher's perspective is let me just check it out the right verse. The teacher's perspective is if there are things a teacher cannot say to the disciple, then their relationship between a teacher and disciple is not a perfect teacher and disciple relationship. So you can see, teacher also honestly should talk to the disciple, in order to be a perfect. So here we can see from the standing point of teacher and from the standing point of the disciple, we can see there. And then here you can see in Buddhism, including our Won Buddhist teaching, belief and dedication is important, but not just belief and dedication towards others. So belief and dedication towards myself. So there in this, the belief and dedication, the chapter, Sotaesan, focuses, find teacher within yourself. So inner teacher is very important. So you don't just respect teacher outside, your inner teacher, your conscientious and your Buddha nature, those are your inner teachers. So you have to find out. So you have to make a balance. Don't just rely on the teacher outside, teacher within yourself. I haven't really do this month, but one of my interesting question is, all right, Sotaesan's disciple, how do they understand Sotaesan? Sotaesan kind of tell us Buddha is my teacher. And how about Sotaesan, his own disciples? How did they understand Sotaesan? I think that is the question I am asking, and then probably my last Dharma talk of this series, that will be sort of my conclusion. But here, the belief and dedication, the last chapter, last verse, it says, the sages who preside over an epoch, E-P-O-C-H, how do you pronounce epoch? Yes, sometimes I'm not clear about the pronunciation. So the sages who preside over an epoch. So here, Sotaesan's disciple, they see Master Jeongsan and Master Taesan, they see Sotaesan is the Buddha to be in the future, and so somewhat his disciples really seeing the Sotaesan is not just a teacher, is the teacher, and that piece I would like to really see. So many religious tradition, you talk about Maitreya Buddha, right? Buddha to be in the future, and then Judeo-Christian Messiah. So does Sotaesan's disciples see the founding master as that stage or not? I don't know, but I am asking, and I want you two together. So that's somewhat. I'll be completing my talk, and then next month is entering the deep samadhi. So Sotaesan did not find the teacher, right? But he claimed he adopted the Buddha as teacher, but adopted Buddha as teacher after his awakening. So until he reached that stage he had the deep samadhi, totally lost. What should I do? Totally lost. And then awakening. So next month is Sotaesan became absorbed in the single thought, what shall I do? With total lost. So that will be my Dharma talk of next March. And for the time being, let us be well balanced. The world needs us to be healthy and well, and let's have prayer together. Thank you.